This episode is made possible by NetSuite by Oracle and Brex, the AI-powered spend platform.
Hi, this is Gina Mastantuno, the CFO of ServiceNow, and you're listening to the CFO Thought Leader Podcast.
This is episode 2008.
I think investor relations, I recommend almost every finance professional try and take a turn in investor relations if they can. It's great to be asked questions by smart people who really want to understand your business. And I think it really helps. It helped me really think through the industrial logic of the businesses that I was helping to support and run. And I think that is incredibly valuable for any finance professional.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's episode, we speak with Erica Gessert, CFO of Upwork. In the throes of the Great Recession, Erica Gessert faced one of her first tests of leadership. As the head of investor relations for Virgin Mobile, Gessert found herself navigating the collapsing financial sector. Key banks that were integral to the company's operations began to crumble, and the economic landscape was fraught with uncertainty. Keeping investor concerns top of mind, Gessert slowly, steadily revealed to investors the path forward. You'll hear that story and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this. 37,025-1. These are the three numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, you should get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system and with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/KPI. That's netsuite.com/KPI. Hello, we're speaking with Erica Gessert, CFO of Upwork. Erica, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a delight to be here, Jack.
Erica, as always, we're going to begin by asking you to look back for us. And what we want to know are what are those experiences you feel best prepared you to become a CFO? When you look back, what would those be?
Yeah, great question. I would say it's always the sort of the shocks to the system or the unusual things that happen along the way that we look back on and think of as most formative. Whether it's the kind of external factors, I've been around a long time now, so I lived through the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, as well as, of course, kind of all of the changes. And for those of us who are in finance, and a big part of our job is making sure that we can see down the road. Obviously, COVID and everything that happened during those years were really impactful and formative, as well as we all had to navigate through those times. I actually look back to the Great Recession. I was actually head of investor relations for Virgin Mobile, and we took that company public in October of 2007, so the year before the Great Recession hit. And I don't know if you remember those days, but it was just an incredible crisis, so much going on so quickly. And actually, so Virgin Mobile, when we went public, the three banks on the cover of our S1 were Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, and Merrill Lynch. And I don't know if you recall that those are the three banks that went under, very, very suddenly, right at when the Great Recession hit. These guys also owned our debt at Virgin Mobile, so it was a big crisis time. I had to help the company navigate through. We were actually listed on the NYSE. Our market cap kind of cratered really because of external concerns, not because of any real true internal, fundamental issues. So we had to work with NYSE, prevent delisting and kind of navigate through, a very, very trying time when an extraordinarily many external factors were causing kind of crisis within the company. And I remember that time, and I'm sure we all relate to similar times during COVID when we were having to navigate through completely unknown territory. And I think it's those times as leaders, and even when we're not, really in the leadership role we are now, that prepare us for leadership. The other thing I'd also point to in my career was after that same company, Virgin Mobile, was acquired by Sprint, which was my next employer. I actually joked at the time with my CFO that I was going to be synergy number one in that transaction because, I was the head of investor relations of the smaller firm. But I was actually, our CEO put me in charge of the go-to-market planning of the Sprint prepaid portfolio. It was a multiple brand portfolio. And so I was moved over to the business and had to think through kind of go-to-market processes and brand strategy and a whole bunch of areas that I frankly wasn't that familiar with. But it was an incredible opportunity. And I will always remember that time as one which was incredibly difficult, incredibly scary, but also incredibly formative because I really had to think and put myself in the shoes of the business and really understand the problems that we were trying to solve through marketing, through customer acquisition, and other things like that. So that really helped me in my finance career to become much more well-rounded and always understand kind of what the business problems are that we're trying to solve across the business.
So can I ask, it's interesting, the first, is it almost 10 years you were really an investor relations professional, which we've had other leaders explain that's how they found their footing originally in the finance function. But is that accurate? 10 years. And then
sounds about right. I don't know that I've ever added up the years, but that sounds about right. Yes, I did a number of different investor relations jobs: E-Trade, Virgin Mobile, Sprint. So I found that to be, I think investor relations, I recommend almost every finance professional try and take a turn in investor relations if they can. It's great to be asked questions by smart people who really want to understand your business. And I think it really helps. It helped me really think through the industrial logic of the businesses that I was, helping to support and run. And I think that is incredibly valuable for any finance professional.
The investor relations professionals also, they have a great lines of sight into the C-suite. They have a lot of exposure to the senior management and top office. So when you said Sprint acquired Virgin Mobile, and you come into that organization, and originally, were you in investor relations there? And you begin to tell us how you got moved into this planning opportunity. But how did that happen exactly? And were you a little bit of a fish out of water originally?
Well, that's a great question. I actually, when I started, when right after the acquisition, I ran this go-to-market plan, kind of work for about 6 months, and that was really thinking through the portfolio of brands and kind of making decisions about their target market and how they fit together. That was a finite body of work, and then I actually was running I was running finance for the prepaid group for a while, and then actually the Sprint, the CFO at Sprint asked me as a favor to come back into investor relations. I'd been in investor relations a long time, and I was kind of happy to continue to round out my portfolio and work in operational roles as well, but asked me as a favor to come back into the IR group in order to really help them out and kind of build out their plan. So I did that for a while, and then actually ended up back on the operational side, I was the CFO of the prepaid group, as well as
What
having
is
a.
the prepaid group at Sprint? What was that exactly?
Yeah, so Sprint owns a number of prepaid brands, prepaid as opposed to contractual relationships with they call in telecom they call them either prepaid, which is paying by the month, or postpaid, which is a contractual relationship with the customer. So we had a number of prepaid brands: Boost Mobile, Virgin Mobile, a business called Assurance, which is kind of government subsidized brand, as well as Sprint prepaid. So we had a portfolio of brands, and we really needed to help think through, what were the target markets, and how would these brands coexist together. So I became the CFO of that group of brands. It's about a $5 billion business, and then I also had a horizontal role running customer analytics across the company. And back to your original question on, was I kind of a fish out of water? I would say, I think we all kind of adapt and learn as we go with any role we're in. And I had a great learning experience at Sprint. We also went through, quite a number of changes and new experiences. During that time, SoftBank came in and bought about 80% of the Sprint business, and so we went through that transaction, as well as acquiring Clearwire and other things. So it was a fantastic learning experience for me. I met some great people, and actually ended up reporting to Masa at SoftBank once a month on the progress of the business.
Really?
So,
I was going to
yeah.
ask. And again, just so listeners understand, you kind of rose through the ranks at Sprint in a roughly, you were there about 6 years. As you said, you are a unit CFO, but you're also a vice president. So when you do move on, you step into a vice president role at PayPal. But what I want to ask is, when you're at Sprint, was there a time where you got tapped on the shoulder and asked to step in? Whether it was before the board or these investors, SoftBank investors, to present.
I had many roles at Sprint in various capacities, and actually I ran IR during a quite exciting time. Like I said, I was in the IR role, helping when we acquired Clearwire, which was a big transaction, and also when SoftBank acquired us. From there, I actually, I transitioned back I wanted to go back into operations, so I transitioned into the prepaid CFO role. And then, as I said, we were based in Kansas. Sprint and now T-Mobile is based in Kansas City, and I would fly out once a month to report to Masa and his board on the progress of the Sprint group. And because I was the CFO of the prepaid brands, I was kind of front and center in those presentations. We were kind of the growth business at Sprint, and so would report about the progress of the business, our growth, our kind of growth approach, and costs, unit costs of acquisition. Telecom's all about marketing and customer acquisition. That's basically the bread and butter of those businesses. And so reporting out on that, as well as the competitive landscape and things like that.
When you do leave Sprint, what is the opportunity that you find interesting? What is it that makes you jump?
Well, I knew Dan Schulman, the CEO he was the CEO at Virgin Mobile when I was the head of investor relations, and he then went. He actually gave me a call one day and said, "Hey, Erica, I'm about to join PayPal as the CEO, and I would love for you to come aboard and help us out." So that was a super exciting opportunity. I knew Dan from long ago, and he was coming on at PayPal. For those who don't know the history of kind of PayPal and eBay, PayPal had been acquired by eBay as a tiny little nascent company, 10 years before I joined in 2015. And had grown up under eBay, and then through a shareholder activist action, was required to separate from eBay. So Dan came on as the CEO. He gave me a call and said, "Hey, Erica, I'm not quite sure what the job is, but I want you to come on and help us go public, with the separated PayPal, and really just help us build up operations during this very, very rapid kind of departure." At this point, PayPal is a $10 billion top line business, but had been really kind of, under the purview of a very kind of, a strong parent the entire time. So I came in, it was a crazy time. I started January of 2015, and then we went public about 6 months later, and we were pulling everything apart from, finance operations. We were talking internally about whether, accounting or FP&A should be reporting actuals. We were rebuilding from scratch a lot of the basic operations of the business, and this is a huge at-scale business. So I worked with Dan on that, and one of the most challenging and exciting times of my career, and really helping to kind of rebuild all the kind of operations from scratch. So then I went in and took over customer analytics, which I had also had my previous experience with at Sprint, and then also kind of the head of corporate FP&A. And from there, my role really grew over time, over many years, to own all of operational and strategic finance, including credit, pricing, and all of the business unit CFOs reporting to me. So a really exciting time, and a long road of role expansion after that.
Are there other milestones, transactions during that time, whether they were acquiring companies or jettisoning them?
Oh my goodness! Well, PayPal was very, very acquisitive, and so we, over I would call it, the 6 or 7 years in which I was, kind of continuing to grow our business, we did a number of transactions. One of the most significant ones from a finance point of view was actually selling off our credit book. And these, for those who are kind of in the credit business, or we had a $6 billion portfolio of consumer credit on our balance sheet. And so we, sold that off, and these are incredibly complex transactions that really was cross-functionally finance led. And as the head of all of the kind of business units and the credit business unit, I was instrumental in that transaction.
And again, an 8-year investment at PayPal. So every step along the way, it seems like you're making a fairly sizable investment of career years. When does the CFO office come into focus? When does that idea sort of surface and you begin to think about, when does that happen? Is it sort of in the second half of your career? How would you characterize that?
It's a really interesting question, and I think that it's so interesting as all of us develop in our careers along this path. I think when we start out, we're just trying to hustle and work hard and kill it in the job we're in, and then as we start to grow and develop and I think get more confident in our own skills and abilities, you start to kind of think, hey, I think I can do that. And I was lucky in my career in many ways, getting a lot of exposure to a lot of CFOs along the way, and really starting to learn how CFOs operate through my investor relations role, and then through other, kind of owning other transactions and things as I just articulated. So I think that, really it was as I was growing in my, having had extensive exposure at Sprint, with both the CEO and the CFO, and then, really at PayPal, helping to take that company public and other things, I started to really get a good idea that, of what the CFO role entailed, and thought, I feel like I'm on my path to getting, well-rounded. The other kind of seminal moment, I would say, at PayPal was my boss, the CFO of PayPal, John Rainey. About halfway through, he decided to also take on kind of a dual role, and he became also the head of customer operations, as well as being the CFO. Now, he was new to that side of the business, and so as his kind of number two internally, I started to take on a bigger kind of leadership role of the rest of the finance organization. And so as he was kind of getting, kind of more occupied on the customer service side, I became sort of an internal de facto CFO at that time. So that was great training for me to be able to run that shop and really kind of understand all the different aspects of what it entailed.
When you do, and again, you step into a CFO role at Upwork in 2023. When you do take that jump, is there a recruiter, or is it your network, or what's the relationship
Yeah.
that finally?
That's a really great question too. So I was actually originally recruited. So it was a recruiter that called me. But I always say to everyone that it's neither one nor the other, right? That the original call may come from a recruiter, but your network is incredibly essential, especially as you're moving up into these top roles. Cultivating that network and making sure you have a lot of advocacy out there, and just good friends that that people can reach out to and talk to about you, is really, really important. I think all businesses at this level will do back channeling on their future C-level people, and so having that network and well established is really important.
Let's move to our business segment where we find out about Upwork.
Great.
Tell us about this company. What's it up to, and what are its offerings really about today?
Yeah, sure. So Upwork is the world's work marketplace. We are the largest online marketplace for companies to find independent professionals and for professionals to find work. No one has our size and scale. We do over $4 billion on our volume on our platform every year. And we serve a very large and growing client base of about 872,000 clients on our platform, and we help them find great talent to get the essential work done that they need.
And could you tell us just maybe an abbreviated history of the company's capital structure?
Sure. So we went public about 5 years ago, and we also raised convertible debt in August of 2020. So we have a very strong balance sheet. We have a convertible that's about $360 million on the balance sheet, and then another $150 million of cash. The other really important point to understand about our business is that when I came on a year ago, we were actually not profitable as a business, and I think the company made decisions to invest into the benefits of essentially the benefits to the business of shifting to remote and other things like that. Those tailwinds were obviously really, really good for a business like ours that is really about connecting businesses and professionals to get work done remotely. So during the pandemic, this was we had some tailwinds for our business and invested into it. When I joined in May of last year, the business was not profitable, and obviously, with interest rates where they were, and kind of the nervousness of the market last year, was really important that we move to profitability. So we've made a really rapid move. We've gained 20 points of EBITDA margin in just 3 quarters last year, and now we just reported 18% EBITDA margins in our first quarter. So now we're cash flow positive, and back to the capital structure question, we're going to be growing our cash balances each and every year, and that actually enabled us to buy back about $100 million of stock in the last few months.
So when you step into the role, did you have all the visibility you wanted? I mean, CFOs look at the world a little differently one from the next. And I wondered when you originally arrived, you were like, thank you for these numbers, but here's what I really want to understand or see into daily rather than weekly or what it might have been. Your ability to extend your lines of sight. Can you share with us any step that you took to really measure something different, make a number more top of mind for senior people across the board, whatever it might have been?
Yeah, sure. That's an excellent question, and I think there's always, every new leader brings a new lens to a business, and I think that's one of the values of bringing people on with extensive backgrounds. With my analytics background, one of my early focuses coming into the business was just making sure that we internally had all of the kind of acquisition and predictive churn and other models that we could look at to understand the signals of customer behavior that also are incredibly important for our business in terms of identifying how and when customers are disengaging with the platform, and then kind of identifying what we can do about it. So that's been some of the early work that I've kind of instigated as I've come into the business, and really helping us to better predict when our customers are either moving up the engagement ladder or declining, and how we can predict some of that stuff. So actually, one of the things that we've also seen is really strong improvement in our customer acquisition signals in the past 3 quarters or so. We've been growing our client base each and every quarter, and last quarter actually reported our highest client growth in 2 years. So some really great progress there.
It's also, you have relationships, you have the consumers and you have the contractors. You have lines of sight into both relationships, one would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, look, our business, our platform is incredibly diverse. So for people who aren't as familiar with Upwork, we have over 125 job categories on our platform. We do, like I said, we do over $4 billion of volume, and this is really clients and talent coming together to get work done. Anything from shorter projects, which is really the smaller amount of volume on our platform, to long extended projects doing AI modeling, or helping to be prompt engineers or other things like that, as well as software development, design and creative, absolutely everything you can possibly think of. And so yes, we certainly want visibility into both sides of the platform. We tend to have more supply on the talent side than demand on the client side, and so we're primarily marketing to clients, and have a real diversity of talent on the platform. Of course, there are always some categories of talent that we're trying to build out as well, and one of the areas that we've really been focusing on is making sure that our talent is the most AI-enabled talent base in the world. One of the really interesting data points about our business as compared to full-time employees of corporations and other things is that full-time employees tend to be a lot slower in developing new ways of working and new ways of getting things done than our incredibly diverse and active freelance talent base. So we have a research institute, and one of the insights that we've been developing is that our talent reports that 50% of them are using AI tools on a weekly basis, as compared to about 10% within kind of captive organizations. So that's been a really big area of focus for us as well.
So can you share with us, I would imagine cash management is something that's been top of mind since you first arrived. And is there something you can share with us about cash management best practices, or whether there was a certain technology that allowed you to understand better how your cash was being managed, or anything you can share related to cash management?
Yeah, I mean, with cash management, I mean, I think in this interest rate environment, we all need to make sure that we are prudent with our cash, and I think that the external communities are still really focused on making sure that companies are solvent, that they're profitable, and that they're growing their cash, and that there's no worry. So any company that sort of can't produce line of sight of that in this environment where money is so expensive is going to be kind of punished from a valuation point of view. So I think that's first and foremost, and that was one of my big focuses when I first came in, was just making sure we're cash flow positive. For our size of the company, we have a really strong balance sheet, and then from there, I think it's really about. I mean, so we have a convertible on our balance sheet. It's due in August of 2026. So it's really about monitoring what the pricing out there, and making sure that you have a strong set of kind of advisors and other people who are going to help to kind of monitor pricing and those kinds of things in order to make the right strategic decisions with your balance sheet. So I think that's one of the most important aspects for us.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to jump to what we refer to as our finance strategic moment. And again, this is could have happened last week. It might have happened 20 years ago. It's a moment of strategic insight that you experienced because you're a finance executive and you could look into the business, see opportunities, you could see risks to stay away from. What comes to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Well, for those who maybe aren't as close to my history, I was at PayPal for 8 years, and actually the last year or so of my time there, I had been the head of all of strategic and operational finance for PayPal, as well as customer analytics and a number of other areas. And because of just my depth of knowledge of the business, PayPal was a kind of pandemic beneficiary in that, when people were at home, they're shopping online more, they're doing those kinds of things. And so we had a very large, kind of increase to volume in our business during those years. As we came out the other side of the pandemic, as like many other pandemic beneficiaries, we came to the realization that we needed to readjust our cost structure and some of our internal processes because the volumes were kind of readjusting, and we really needed to make sure that we didn't have a mismatch from a cost structure point of view to our top line. And so we needed to transform. And so at that time, our CEO, Dan Schulman, came to me and said, hey, we need to run a dedicated transformation effort. And it's going to be compiled not just a simple cost reduction, but true business transformation. And he really came to me because I had such a in-depth knowledge of all of the different processes in our businesses, having run finance cross-functionally for so long. And finance professionals quite often are in a unique position in that we are looking across the entire enterprise, right? We're not looking into one particular business unit or something else. And so he came to me, and we really worked together to help transform PayPal. And one of my jobs was to identify what are the big rocks within the business that we can change that will. Yes, it'll probably help us be more efficient, but it'll also be more effective and improve customer experience. And one of the areas that I, helped identify was actually a very operational thing at PayPal, which was that we had two separate customer service organizations, one in the front end, one in the back end. And the insight that I had, having worked, for a long time with our, various business leaders, was that the front end, front lines of customer service, people who are picking up the phones, they weren't able to talk to the back end who are dealing with disputes and customer financial holds and things like that. So I said, what we knew was about 25% of those incoming calls were about the back end, and they were causing us literally hundreds of millions of dollars of cost a year, and it was a terrible customer experience. So I led the charge to combine these two kind of business units together. We eliminated about 20% of customer calls, made the customer experience much, much better, and also saved PayPal tens of millions of dollars. So it was really a great moment in time where we were able to make a true operational change that both helped our bottom line and improved customer experience.
CFOs and controllers, does expense management feel like a necessary evil? It's time to switch to Brex. Brex automates and accelerates spend management with easy-to-use corporate cards, travel, expense management, and bill pay, all on one AI-powered platform. Brex makes it easy to boost efficiency and compliance enterprise-wide and free up your managers, employees, and accounting team for higher impact work. Top companies from startups to enterprises are using Brex to automate manual work and transform their finance operations. We're talking DoorDash, Robinhood, Airtable, and countless other industry leaders. Ready to join them? Switch to AI-powered spend management at Brex.com.
We're going to jump to what we refer to as our mentoring round, where we'll ask you several quick questions intended to inform and inspire future finance leaders. We want you to think back to that first 30 days in the role. And we know that you probably picked up a few books, what to do the first, 100 days, 90 days. And you had a lot of people offering you advice. Still, there was something you wish someone had told you about what it is to become a CFO and step into that role for the first time. We know you had lots of responsibility in the past, but this was the first time, of course, you had the title, and it was you were a member of the C-suite. What is that advice you'd give yourself if you could go back in time?
I think there's so many things I think that we all continue to learn and develop over time, but I would say I think one is trust your instincts. I think that there's as we kind of continue to climb in our career journey and advance, there's a reason that you've gotten where you have, and I think we as CFOs we're always want to be data driven, and we always want to make sure that we're using the best possible data set to make decisions, and that will remain true. That's in our blood. But I think we also should realize that there are times when you have to use a combination of data and gut, right? You have to use both. That's business. You have to move quickly, and new CFOs should realize that your gut, your experience is really based on like 25 years of experience, right? And so it's one of the best data sets you have in some ways, and so using the combination of those two and kind of trusting yourself, I think, is really important.
We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side for us. We wonder if there's something most people don't know about you, something along the way, whether it was outside of work, something most people don't know.
I would say something most people don't know about me is I am not just a numbers person. I'm super passionate about reading and literature, as well as I'm an extremely competitive and fierce Scrabble player. So I still remember the day I used to play with my dad as a kid, and I still remember the day when I was 19 years old when I finally beat him. And the mixture of kind of pride and competitiveness on his face and like the absolute pride on my own. So those are special memories, and I still absolutely love it.
Nice. Thank you for that. You told us you're a reader. Is there a book you'd recommend, something you enjoy? It doesn't have to be a business book. Could be something you escape with. Anything come to mind for us?
From a personal point of view, I read probably a mixture of fiction and nonfiction, but probably about 2/3 fiction. That's sort of my getaway, to your point on escaping. I love the book Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. I think that it's absolutely brilliant. It's quite a tome, so don't be intimidated when you look at the size of it, for those who take a look at it. On the business side, I would say I really enjoyed Hit Refresh by Satya Nadella. One of the things I loved about that book is his emphasis on building a learn-it-all culture instead of a know-it-all culture, and being focused. And I think as leaders, it's incredibly important for us to model this, which is we all are continuing to learn and grow as leaders, as people every day, and embracing that, and kind of showing that to your team, and that's a value that we care about is important.
Excellent. We, believe it or not, we haven't had that recommended before, so that's a nice one for us. Thank you for that. We're up to our final question, where we would like you to look forward finally, and we're interested in what your priorities are as CFO of Upwork for the coming 12 months. What would those be?
Yeah, we want to make sure that, one of the things about, kind of being a mid-cap company is that, you got to tell your story. And, one of the things that I'm going to be super focused on is just making sure that people see the power of the Upwork business, and the fact that we we are really at the forefront of using technology to change how people connect and get work done. We are building out our AI-enabled platform, both on how we help clients and freelancers come together and connect, as well as we just launched Uma, our AI companion for our platform that will be a conversational companion to clients and talent to connect and get advice, get inspiration for their projects. So it's really about working and getting the word out and helping people understand what a great business we've got.
Erica Gessert, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thanks so much, Jack. I really enjoyed it.
Hello, listeners. As you may know, we recently passed the 1,000 episode milestone, and the fact is, we've published well over 1,000 episodes over the years, but we only prescribe a number to episodes featuring CFOs, because we know this is truly what has distinguished us over time. We're a platform dedicated to the people who actually occupy the CFO office. And to you, our listeners, who are very often seeking to better understand the roots of finance leadership. Well, it's with this in mind that we're pleased to announce the release of our new book titled The CFO 500, where we have profiled 500 of the more than 1,000 CFOs that have participated with us over the years. And you remember Siskel and Ebert, the movie guide? Leonard Moulton had his movie guide as well. Well, that's sort of the concept of what's inspired this volume, the CFO 500. Think of it as a reference volume where you can quickly thumb through the 500 one-page CFO profiles and cherry pick out the interviews that matter to you. How so? Well, each CFO page profile includes an individual QR code that allows you to instantly access the audio interview with the CFO that most intrigues you. Or maybe it's a particular industry. Just like that movie guide you used to reach to on a day when nothing much was going on, here's a way to quickly reference the interviews that matter most to you. The CFO 500 is now available for $29.95 and can only be purchased via CFOThoughtLeader.com. So visit us at CFOThoughtLeader.com. Thank you.